Gamers, readers, and stat crunching adventurers, assemble. If you're obsessed with XP bars, overpowered protagonists, and immersive worlds where your choices literally shape reality, then this one's for you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I'm counting down the top lit RPG books that, in my opinion, you need to read in 2025. If you've never heard of the genre, a lit RPG in a nutshell is a blending of traditional storytelling with one or more aspects taken from a role-playing video game. Some examples include a leveling up system, increasing strength and stats as characters receive new skills and stronger equipment. I have a more detailed explanation in my What's a Lit RPG video, and I'll link it in the description down below if you'd like to watch it. And if you like my bookish content and these types of videos, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can see all the new content the moment it drops. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. Coming in at number 10 is One More Last Time by Eric Ougland. One More Last Time nails that sarcastic, reluctant hero vibe as Montana lands in a new world and decides to kick ass, accidentally. Think smart upgrades, hilarious banter, and lots of ale. So One More Last Time is book one of the Good Guys series, first published in 2018. There's also an audiobook which is narrated by Neil Helgers, which is approximately 4 hours long. So an overview of the book is that Montana is not your average protagonist. After surviving an assassination attempt, and possibly not surviving it, it's complicated, he wakes up in a brand new body in a fantastic game world called Voldrani. But this isn't just another trapped in a video game scenario. This is a fully immersive world governed by stats, skills, XP, and, much to Montana's surprise, a mysterious all-knowing system with a bit of a personality problem. So what's a wisecracking former mob enforcer supposed to do when handed a sword and a stat sheet? Simple. Build a town, pick a class, eventually, slay some monsters, and try and stay alive long enough to figure out why he's here and who sent him. And in my opinion, what makes this book awesome is its humour that actually lands. One of the biggest strengths of One More Last Time is the voice. Montana's inner dialogue is sarcastic, self-deprecating, and generally funny. Think mob fixer gets dropped into Dungeons and Dragons and rolls with it. It feels like a mashup of John Wick, Deadpool, and Skyrim, with better one-liners and more loot. And what makes these books especially fun is the tone. It's lighter, sharper, and it's often laugh out loud funny. So one of my favourite running gags in this series is that every time Montana unlocks a new skill or achievement, the system cheerily kicks in with cool beans. It's a quirky little detail, but it adds so much personality to the world and breaks the mould from your typical grim, stat-heavy lit RPG. There's also town building meets monster slaying. You're not just watching Montana level up, you're watching him lay the foundation for a settlement in a dangerous, semi-abandoned region. It's got the satisfying base building meets frontier survival vibe, and watching the systems evolve as the town grows is pure lit RPG gold. It's part adventure, part simulation, and it all works. There's also organic progression and solid mechanics. While many lit RPGs go super stat heavy, One More Last Time keeps a good balance. You get skill trees, classes, and XP pop-ups, but it doesn't bog you down with spreadsheets. Everything feels earned and the power curve is smooth and satisfying. Montana doesn't start overpowered, but as he makes clever choices, pushes through setbacks, and gains real-world and in-game experiences, he begins to bend the system in interesting ways. So some of the themes that shine through for me is reinvention, a man with a dark past trying to start over. Also free will versus fate, especially in a world defined by stats. There's building versus destroying. Montana doesn't just kill to level up, he creates. There's also an epic found family vibe in this book. The NPCs and companions that become something more. As I said before, the audiobook is narrated by Neil Helgers, and I think he elevates the experience big time. His delivery of Montana's dry wit, the NPC dialogue, and system notifications is pretty spot on. There's great pacing, great voices, and definitely one of the better lit RPG performances out there in my opinion. So my final verdict of One More Last Time is that it's a fast-paced, clever, and surprisingly addictive lit RPG adventure. And whether you're in it for the sarcastic one-liners, the smart use of game mechanics, or the ever-evolving mystery behind Montana's second life, this book delivers. And once you've finished it, you'll likely be reaching for book 2 because things only get crazier from here. Also, there's an honourable mention to this series. There is another book series by the same author, which is set in the same universe, called The Bad Guys. So the Good Guys series is one and the Bad Guys series is another. So set in the same universe, but to my knowledge, the characters don't actually interact with each other or meet at all. But it's just the Good Guys series and the Bad Guys series. So if you're interested, check it out. Coming in at number 9, it's the OG that introduced many of us to gamified fiction. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Yeah, it's not your traditional lit RPG, but the nostalgic deep dive into the 80s pop culture and the fully immersive Oasis earns it a solid spot in my opinion. The book was first published in 2011 and it's book 1 of a duology. So book 1 is Ready Player One and book 2 is Ready Player 2. So if you like audiobooks, then you are in luck because this book is narrated by none other than Wil Wheaton. It adds an extra layer of geek joy. It's lively, engaging, and perfect for anybody who loves a good lit RPG audiobook. Also, a little fun fact is that in the book, Wil Wheaton is actually mentioned as the vice president of the Oasis, as an in-universe joke or a fan shout-out. It's a fun nod to his status as a beloved figure in gaming and sci-fi communities. Ready Player One is a thrilling, nostalgia-fueled virtual scavenger hunt set inside the Oasis, a sprawling digital universe where pop culture knowledge is power and the winner takes everything. Packed with retro gaming references, fast-paced action, and a high-stakes treasure hunt. It's a love letter to the 1980s that asks serious questions about identity, escapism, and the real cost of living in a virtual world. So the premise of the book is that in a grim, overcrowded future of 2045, most of humanity escapes harsh reality of Earth by plugging into the Oasis, which is a hyper-immersive virtual reality metaverse. When the Oasis's eccentric billionaire creator, James Halliday, dies, he leaves behind a game, a hidden Easter egg buried deep in the simulation. Whoever finds it inherits his entire fortune and control of the Oasis. So then enter Wade Watts, a poor orphan teenager with nothing but a VR headset and an encyclopedic knowledge of 80s trivia, arcade games, and obscure cult films. He joins the global hunt for the egg, racing against powerful corporations, dangerous rivals, and time itself. So in my opinion, what makes this book special is the Oasis is a gamer's dream world, from fantasy realms to zero-gravity arenas. The Oasis is one of the most richly imagined digital worlds in modern sci-fi. It's the ultimate wish fulfillment and it taps directly into the heart of every gamer, geek and dreamer. It's a pure pop culture celebration. Ernest Cline doesn't just sprinkle in the 80s references, he lives in them. Expect deep dives into classic arcade games, cult movies, TV shows, anime, D&D, old school hacking and more. If you're into retro culture, it's a smorgasbord, but if you're not, it still works. The references serve the plot, not just the nostalgia. It also has high stakes and fast pacing. The novel moves fast. Each clue, puzzle or boss battle adds layers of tension, keeping you flipping pages. Wade is also the scrappy underdog you root for, and the villains, especially the soulless corporation enemy, IOI, which is Innovative Online Industries, are easy to root against. So while the book is fun and flashy, it also explores some pretty heavy themes like escapism versus reality. Like, when is a virtual world better than the real one, and should it be? Also, corporate control of digital spaces, who gets to own the metaverse? Also, there's identity and anonymity online, and who are we when we get to choose? There's also social inequality, especially in the contrast between the rich and the poor in both worlds. So I know there'll probably be people in the comments saying it's not a lit RPG, but it is in my opinion. Although Ready Player One doesn't use stats, level ups or skill trees like a traditional lit RPG, the game mechanics, quests, loot and virtual challenges absolutely make it a lit RPG adjacent to me, especially for fans of the VR MMO style progression. So my final verdict is that Ready Player One is a high-speed, high-score thrill ride through the ultimate virtual world. Whether you're a gamer, a retro junkie or just love the underdog story set in a fully realised digital playground, this book delivers. And in my opinion, it still holds up as one of the gender-defining works of VR fiction. At number 8, we have Heretical Fishing by Haylock Jobson. This one is beautifully strange. Imagine glitchy game mechanics, cosmic horror, and a world that actually breaks its own rules. It's part lit RPG, part fever dream, and it's all kinds of awesome. Heretical Fishing is book 1 in the Heretical Fishing series, originally published on Royal Road, and there's currently 3 books. It is an ongoing series, and the fourth book is expected to be released this year in August. Heretical fishing is what happens when a lit RPG system breaks reality and the protagonist decides to just go fishing. In my opinion, it is a delightful entry into the lit RPG and portal fantasy genre, offering a refreshing take that emphasises humour, heart, and a laid-back approach to adventure. And if you're like me and like your books smart, weird, and absolutely unlike anything else in the genre, then cast your line here. Do you like what I did there? The story follows Fisher, a former businessman on Earth who finds himself transported to a fantastic realm, a world abandoned by the gods and governed by a malfunctioning system. And unlike typical protagonists who seek power or heroism, Fisher aspires to a tranquil life of fishing, despite the cultural taboos against it in this new world. His journey is less about epic battles and more about building a peaceful existence, forming bonds with quirky townsfolk, and navigating the peculiarities of a society obsessed with ascension and power. So what makes this book stand out to me is that it has a pacifist protagonist in a combat-centric world. Most lit RPGs revolve around epic battles, power leveling, and min-maxing skills. However, Fisher, he just wants to fish, cook, and be left alone. That contrast makes his journey feel fresh and kind of rebellious in a wholesome way. His refusal to play by the rules gives the book a chill, almost meditative tone that's rare in the genre. What I love about this book is that it has humour with heart. The humour in Heretical Fishing is gentle, clever, and often rooted in character quirks rather than slapstick or snark. It walks the line between parody and sincerity, especially with Fisher's deadpan reactions to absurd magical bureaucracy, cultural taboos about fishing, and his unlikely friendships. And one of those includes a crab. There's also some really cosy world building. The town and its townsfolk feel like a warm, odd little community you might want to move to. There's a strong slice of life vibe there. Think farming, friendship, meal prep, fishing spots, but with just enough system-driven intrigue to keep you curious about what's going on behind the scenes. Also, the side characters in this book land so well. They have so much personality, from the AI system to the eccentric shopkeepers and to Fisher's companion crab. Yes, a literal crab with all the vibes. The supporting cast is charming and unpredictable. The interactions are often low stakes but emotionally rich, which gives the world a lived-in feel. And look, I never thought I'd say this unironically, but Haylock Jobson has made me emotionally attached to a crab, like a literal sideways walking, pinchy, happy crustacean. Believe me when I say the writing is just so good and it's so effortlessly vivid that this crab somehow has more personality than half the humans I know. So I started this book for the fishing and the vibes and stayed for the existential system weirdness, and now I'd probably die for a shellfish with no dialogue. Haylock, you wizard, what kind of sorcery is this, I swear? So if you like lit RPGs but want something quieter, funnier and cozier, then Heretical Fishing definitely carves out its own little corner of the genre. At its core, Heretical Fishing explores themes of self-discovery, community, and the pursuit of a simple life amidst the chaos. Fisher's resistance to the world's expectations serves as commentary on the value of personal fulfillment over societal pressure. And the novel emphasis on character interactions and daily life activities like fishing and cooking provides a soothing reading experience reminiscent of titles like Beware of Chicken. And don't worry, we will get there. So my final verdict of Heretical Fishing is that it stands out as a heartwarming and humorous tale that subverts traditional fantasy narratives. It's an ideal read for those seeking a low-stakes adventure filled with endearing characters and a protagonist who chooses peace over power. Whether you're a fan of lit RPGs or simply looking for a cozy fantasy escape, this novel is sure to reel you in. If you're into epic respawns and surprisingly emotional goblin drama, then buckle up, because for number 7, we're diving into a wild ride. Life Reset by Shamir Kuznits. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Betrayed and body swapped into a goblin NPC, our protagonist must rebuild from the literal bottom. It's space building meets revenge plot, and it's a brilliant spin on the lit RPG power fantasy. So Life Reset is book 1 of the New Era Online series and first published in 2017. There is an audiobook and it is narrated by Jeff Hayes. So imagine logging on to your favourite full immersion multiplayer online game and then getting trapped inside permanently. But instead of playing your powerful human character, you're forced to start over as a goblin. That's the situation Oren, a top tier player and successful guild leader, finds himself in. After a betrayal from his own people, he wakes up inside New Era Online, in a new body at the lowest level of the food chain and without any of the privilege he once had. Now he must rebuild not just his characters but the entire civilization of monsters while mastering the game's deep systems and plotting revenge. So in my opinion, what makes Life Reset stand out? Well, it's got monster POV with a strategic twist. Unlike the usual human versus dungeon format, Life Reset flips the script. You're in the head of a goblin and eventually much more, dealing with instincts, evolution choices, and interfaction politics. This isn't just a character arc, it's a species arc. There's also some deep base building mechanics. If you love village management, tech trees, and evolving NPCs into elite units, then this book is a goldmine. It scratches the same itch as city building strategy games, but wrapped in lit RPG narrative form. There's also a revenge arc that's done right, and at its heart, Life Reset is about betrayal and payback. Oren's journey isn't just about becoming strong again, it's about playing the long game. His transformation from top tier player to a forgotten nobody turned monster is both satisfying and surprisingly emotional. He's methodical, calculating, and focused, but not heartless. And watching him outthink, outbuild, and outlevel his enemies is a huge part of the fun. There's also some rich game systems here. This book leans heavily into game mechanics and does them well. So this book is crunchy in the best way and perfect for readers who love stat sheets and strategic depth. Some of the themes in the book are identity and transformation, what makes us us when everything is stripped away. Also power and corruption, both inside and outside the game. There's also underdog grit, watching someone claw their way back from rock bottom, which is pretty cool. So let's talk about the audiobook. Life Reset is narrated by Jeff Hayes and he is an absolute legend in the lit RPG audiobook world. If you have listened to even a few titles in the genre, chances are that you've already heard his voice. His range from different monster voices, system notification, and Oren's dry internal monologue gives the book even more flavour. My favourite performance by Jeff Hayes has to be Dungeon Crawler Carl, but honestly, he's just that good. If Jeff Hayes is narrating it, I'm listening. His name on a project is basically a stamp of quality in the genre. He elevates stories, sells humour and action equally as well, and makes a long audiobook feel like a weekend hangout with some epic characters. So, my final verdict of Life Reset is that it's a must-read for lit RPG fans who enjoy monster evolution, revenge arcs, and strategic base building. It's fresh, smart, and deep dives into what it means to start over in a world that is out to try and kill you, or control you. If you're tired of cookie cutter protagonists and want to experience life from the monster side, then this series is what you need. Number 6 gets Primal. The Primal Hunter by Zogarth. Primal Hunter throws us into an endless dungeon-like world where the protagonist's only path is forward, and it's through monsters, bosses, and raw ambition. Jake is the definition of a menace to mobs everywhere. So the book is The Primal Hunter, Book 1. There is 12 books in the series so far, with the 13th planned to be released in July of this year. It was originally published as a serialised web novel on Royal Road, where it was initially released around 4 or 5 years ago. Then paperback, Kindle, and audiobook was released in 2022. So what would you do if reality collapsed overnight and monsters, magic, and a universal leveling system suddenly defined the rules of your existence? Well, that's the setup in Primal Hunter, where Jake, an average guy with a gym habit and a sarcastic streak, wakes up to find the world has been integrated into a cosmic system. People start dying, cities fall, the laws of physics bend, and the only way to survive is to evolve. So Jake doesn't just survive, he adapts, and he doesn't stop at just being strong. He becomes something feral, deadly, and unnatural, the very essence of a primal hunter. So in my opinion, what makes this story great is a solo power fantasy that actually works. Jake is a one-man apocalypse, and watching him grind, level, and hunt through this new world is insanely satisfying. He isn't overpowered right away, but when he grows, he earns every single stat point. If you like stories where the protagonist builds up from zero and ascends into a myth, then this is your jam. This story is system apocalypse done right. The world changes immediately, no slow ramp up. In the blink of an eye, monsters appear, stats get assigned, and the rules of reality become game mechanics. So in my opinion, it's crunchy and delicious for RPG fans with detailed combat, power scaling, and it has progression clarity. The system is a primal hunter. It's not kind, it's part cosmic bureaucracy, part universal trial by fire. It rewards strength and ruthlessness, and if you're weak, you die. Period. There's something darkly fascinating about how the system manipulates evolution, encouraging murder, ambition, and monsterhood. And Jake doesn't play the game, he becomes one of its monsters. So Jake as a protagonist is clever, sarcastic, and very self-aware. He's not angsty or edgy, he knows he's becoming something darker and he leans into it. His voice is sharp, his decisions are often brutal, but there's a consistent logic of how he operates. He's a hunter, not a hero, and that's what makes him compelling to me. So, as I said before, the audiobook is narrated by Travis Baldree. Travis Baldree brings Jake's dry wit and deadly calm to life with the perfect tone. If you prefer listening to your lit RPG, this version is an easy recommendation in my opinion. So Travis Baldree is a fantastic audiobook narrator and has been a staple in the lit RPG scene for a while. So a fun fact, if you don't already know, during COVID, when life was crazy and stressful, Travis Baldree actually sat down and started writing a book. That something turned into Legends and Lattes. And Legends and Lattes, if you don't know already, it went viral as a cozy fantasy and is beloved by many. He then went to write a prequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust. Also, if you're a Dungeon Crawler fan, which I really hope that you are, you may have noticed that the Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, Travis makes a surprise voice cameo as Raoul the Crab. I've also heard that he makes an appearance in Book 7, This Inevitable Ruin, but I haven't read it yet and I haven't listened to the audiobook yet, but I can't wait to give the audiobook a listen and see. So I digress, but my final verdict is that The Primal Hunter is a brutal, addictive and intensely satisfying power fantasy with deep progression mechanics, smart combat and a protagonist who becomes a force of nature. It's one of the best examples of solo lit RPG done right. Dark, clever, and endlessly rewarding. So if you're in the mood for a stat-heavy survival epic where the line between man and monster blurs with every level up, then you want to start this series and probably won't stop reading it. So book 5 is where things get seriously epic. Defiance of the Fall by J.F. Brink, also known as The First to Fire, throws you into this wild survival meets cosmic lit RPG mashup. Imagine Earth turned into a leveling battleground and one guy refusing to back down. He's out there grinding stats, dodging death and challenging literal gods and systems. It's brutal, smart and absolutely addictive. So Defiance of the Fall is book 1 of the Defiance of the Fall series, which is currently 14 books. There is a 15th expected to be released in July of this year. It's originally published on Royal Road, later on Kindle and audiobook, and the audiobook is narrated by Pavi Proxco. So imagine you're just out on a casual hike, minding your own business when, bam, the sky tears open, monsters spill out, and the universe drops a RPG system on Earth like a surprise expansion pack that no one asked for. This is the opening punch of Defiance of the Fall. Our protagonist, Zack, is an average guy thrown into an apocalyptic nightmare where leveling up is no longer for games, it's literal life or death. With Earth transformed into a harsh, monster-infested playground for cosmic powers, Zack must evolve, adapt and level up fast if he wants to survive, and maybe even do more than just survive. So what makes this stand out to me is that it's a masterclass in progression. This is a peak lit RPG power progression. The pacing of skills, classes, evolution and stat increases is addictive and well balanced. There's always a new threshold to reach, a new tier to evolve to, a new power to unlock. Zack goes from swinging an axe to tearing through dimensions, but it feels earned in every step of the way. It's also a cultivation and lit RPG hybrid. This series blends Western RPG mechanics like levels, stats and classes with Eastern cultivation elements like energy channels, Dao insights, body tampering, soul techniques. It results in a rich, flexible system that rewards both strategy and commitment. You don't just grind XP, you craft your path. This is a true survival star early on. This isn't about kingdoms or alliances, it's about one man versus the apocalypse. Zack builds from scratch, a lone wolf who fights tooth and nail to secure his territory. If you like isolated survival and resource-based leveling, this first arc is especially satisfying. There's some awesome cosmic world building that starts in the forest, eventually growing into a sprawling multi-world saga. Zack as a protagonist, he's quite stoic and intensely focused. He's not out for glory and he just wants to carve out a future, whatever the cost. And over time, he becomes something of a legend. Not because he talks big, but because he acts with purpose and grit. If you like protagonists who earn everything, make smart choices, and stay a little morally grey, then Zack delivers. So the audiobook, which is narrated by Pavi Prosko, is crisp and immersive. His performance gives Zack the calm intensity he deserves while bringing system prompts and action scenes to life. So I think the audiobook narration keeps pace with the book's action-heavy structure and helps clarify the more system-heavy moments without feeling tedious. So my final verdict is that Defiance of the Fall is a brilliant entry into lit RPG cultivation crossover fiction. It combines relentless growth, creative systems, and cosmic adventure with the grounded grit of a solo survival epic. It's a world where every decision matters and every inch of power must be earned. If you love progression fantasy that's deep, dangerous, and refuse to hold your hand, this is the next obsession. And if you love the process of leveling up as much as the destination, then this is a must-read. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you to all my supporters, and that if you like my bookish content, please like the video or subscribe to the channel so you can see more bookish content and videos like this the moment that they drop. But with that out of the way, we'll get back into the video. Sliding into number 4 is Awaken Online by Travis Bagwell. Ever wonder what happens when the villain gets all the power? This series flips the script with a protagonist who finds freedom and power by embracing the dark side of the game, complete with necromancy, moral ambiguity, and brutal player politics. So Awaken Online is book 1 and was first introduced to readers on Royal Road in 2016 with the release of its prologue. Its initial publication serves as a preview, offering the first 5 chapters to give readers a glimpse into the story. Subsequently, the complete novel was published on Amazon in the same year. So there are 7 books in this main series with another 4 side quest novellas. There is also the Tarot Trilogy, which is a spin-off. The Awaken Online series centres on Jason, a delusioned teenager who becomes the antagonist in a hyper-realistic VR game challenging traditional hero narratives. The main book follows his journey while the side quests delve into other characters' perspectives, and the Tarot Trilogy explores different protagonists within the same universe. So Awaken Online audiobook is narrated by David Stifel. So in a world where virtual reality gaming has become the ultimate form of entertainment and social structure, Jason, a bullied, unappreciated high school student, escapes his miserable life by logging into Awaken Online. Awaken Online being a cutting-edge virtual reality, massive online multiplayer role-playing game. But unlike most power fantasies, this one doesn't follow the hero's journey. Instead, Jason chooses something radically different: to become the villain. As the story unfolds, Jason finds that Awaken Online isn't just a game. It's a mirror reflecting his anger, his intelligence, and the choices society pushes him toward. The further he dives into the game, the more the line between justice and revenge blurs. So what makes Awaken Online Catharsis so good is that it's a smart, strategic anti-hero. Jason isn't just your typical chosen one. He's methodical, driven, and manipulative, but not evil for the sake of it. He's reacting to a life that's been unfair, and when the game gives him power, he uses it ruthlessly and often brilliantly. If you're tired of bland protagonists, Jason's journey into darkness is a refreshing twist. The Necromancer class done right, in my opinion, and let's talk game mechanics. Jason's class, focused on necromancy, fear, and control, is one of the coolest in the genre. Instead of brute strength or flashy spells, he plays like a villain from a strategy game, building enemies of undead, sowing terror, and outwitting more powerful opponents with clever tactics. Plus, the class system in Awaken Online reacts to player behaviour, not just combat. So yeah, that's right, your morality shapes your power. There's some real world parallels and social commentary underneath the spells and skeletons as well. Catharsis tackles real issues like bullying and social isolation, abuse of authority, corporate greed, and the difference between justice and vengeance. The contrast between Jason's real-world powerlessness and his game rise is compelling and thought-provoking. You'll find yourself rooting for him even as he takes a darker path and questioning what it really means to be a bad guy. What stood out to me is that the game world feels alive. Awaken Online feels like an evolving, intelligent game. The AI running it is more than just a code, it's watching, responding, and shaping the events. There's a sense of consequence to everything that Jason does, and it raises the tension in every major choice. So some of the themes that stood out to me is power and consequence, morality as a spectrum, that's non-binary, identity and control in a digital world, and that revenge is a form of justice. Also that finding purpose when society leaves you behind is interesting. So the audiobook performance by David Stifel, I haven't listened to the audiobook myself, but from what I've heard, people say his delivery is very clear and fit in with the darker tone of the story well. Some think his voice can be a little bit monotone at times, but others appreciate how steady and deliberate it is, especially with the main character's transformation. Honestly, it sounds like a solid listen overall. So my final verdict is that Awaken Online Catharsis is a bold, thought-provoking entry into the lit RPG genre. One that flips the hero trope on its head and dares you to root for the villain. If you're into strategy, dark magic, clever game systems, and a protagonist who uses his brain as much as his blade, then this one will hook you fast. It's not just about escaping reality, it's about rewriting it one undead minion at a time. Coming in at number 3 is Beware of Chicken by Casual Farmer. In my opinion, Beware of Chicken is a standout in the lit RPG and cultivation genre, not because it follows the usual tropes, but because it actively rejects them in the most delightful way. Beware of Chicken was originally published on Royal Road, like many lit RPGs, and then an audiobook, and the ebook was released in 2022. So Beware of Chicken is book 1 of the series Beware of Chicken, and it's currently 4 books in the series. Beware of Chicken is a bold and brilliant twist on the cultivation genre. A story that dares to ask, what if the most powerful move was to walk away? And then promptly answers with a peaceful farm, a stubborn farmer, and a rooster who trains harder than most anime protagonists. At its heart, it's a story about Jin, a delusioned outer disciple who abandons the toxic, power-hungry world of cultivation to live a quiet life tending fields. But instead of slowing down, the story blossoms. What starts as a parody quickly becomes something greater. Warm, character-driven, unexpectedly deep, and often laugh-out-loud funny. So what makes this book special to me is some of the side characters, and we need to talk about one of those, which is the rooster, which is the chicken in the title of Beware of Chicken. His name is Big D, and he doesn't just strut around like your average chicken. He embarks on a full-blown training montage, complete with high-stakes stare-downs, furious pecking drills, and unwavering determination of a kung fu master reincarnated into poultry. It's absurd, it's perfect, and somehow it's moving. The writing is clean, immersive, and filled with gentle humour and heart. Casual Farmer somehow makes scenes about growing vegetables and making dumplings feel more epic than most magic battles. And in doing so, builds a world that feels lived in, loved, and real. This is cultivation turned cozy. It's not about becoming the strongest, it's about choosing peace, forging bonds, and occasionally being outshined by a rooster with a personal training arc. So let's talk about the audiobook. It's brilliant. It's narrated by Travis Baldree. The audiobook is a chef's kiss. It perfectly captures the dry humour, emotional beats and charm of the story. So if you do an immersive read like me, it will just elevate the whole experience. So there's always going to be some debate whether or not this is a lit RPG, but you know, yes, sort of, but sort of not. But in my opinion, I'm going to class it as a lit RPG. Although there is no traditional UI, stats or skill trees, Instead, it uses cultivation progression systems with ranks and spiritual energy, and has tiers of power which overlap with the lit RPG mechanics. Think of it as progression fantasy with Shenseya roots and cozy lit RPG flavour. So my final verdict is that Beware of Chicken is more than just a clever title. It's a genre-breaking, soul-soothing gem of a novel that balances comedy, introspection and progression fantasy in a way few stories manage. Whether you're a lit RPG fan or just want something warm and wonderful, this book deserves a spot on your TBR. Beware of Chicken is a masterclass in subverting expectations while still delivering a deeply satisfying story. Come for the satire, stay for the soul. And the rooster, especially the rooster. I love him. So we're getting close to the end now. Coming in at number 2 is He Who Fights with Monsters by Sherdaloon. He Who Fights with Monsters is about an Aussie guy, Jason, who wakes up in another world and starts leveling like it's nobody's business. Jason's antics, insane power classes, and moral complexity make this one of my absolute favourites. So He Who Fights with Monsters is book 1 of the He Who Fights with Monsters series, first published in 2022 and was based on the popular Royal Road web serial. There is an audiobook for this book and it is narrated by Heath Miller. So He Who Fights with Monsters is about Jason Asano. He's a regular Australian guy who wakes up in a different world with no clothes, no cell phone, just magic, monsters, a mysterious governing power system and some really strange abilities. But Jason is not just your typical wide-eyed, out-of-world protagonist. He's sarcastic, philosophical, and occasionally a bit of a jerk, in the best way. As he gets used to his strange new reality, he's granted powers that are equal parts broken, weird, and terrifying. So with shadowy abilities, poisonous blood, and a skill list that screams villain origin story, Jason quickly earns a reputation for being powerful, but for being strange as well, and for being kind of awesome. What makes this book special to me is 1, Jason is Australian and has some really good Australian humour. Also, the book is smart, deeply layered, and it has some pretty layered system mechanics. The system is rich, well explained, and offers meaningful progression. We're talking a unique essence and affinity system, combat abilities tied to Jason's personality and moral alignment, and there's titles, boons, and magical gear. And it's deep without being overwhelming, and it evolves with the characters. In my opinion, Jason is a legend. Jason isn't a chosen one guy. He's not naturally gifted, but he thinks, he learns, he adapts, and he treats everyone, even gods, monsters, and nobles, with the same irreverent sass. Jason's build leans towards debuffs, fear, poison, and damage over time, which makes him the ultimate underdog in big fights. So outmaneuvering enemies instead of overpowering them. The ensemble cast is done really well as well. Jason isn't alone. He builds a tight-knit crew of adventurers with their own arcs, personalities, and motivations. The friendship between them is genuine and heartfelt, and it's often grounding the story in a more emotional depth between boss battles and other things that are happening. Characters like Farah, Gary, and Rufus don't feel like sidekicks. They feel like co-stars with complex interactions and shared growth. Also, the world building and tone is great. From ancient political factions to godly interference, the world is vibrant and alive. There is constant tension between magic class systems and looming cosmic threats. Despite all of this, the tone remains fun, witty, and philosophical. It balances intense action, dark undertones, and laugh out loud moments like few books in the genre, in my opinion. So let's talk about the audiobook. It is amazing. Heath Miller's narration is phenomenal. Being Australian, his Australian accent fits Jason perfectly. His pacing is spot on, and the way that he shifts tone between comedy and drama is delightful. This is absolutely a series that shines in audio format. So my final verdict of He Who Fights with Monsters is that it is smart, hilarious, emotionally resonant, and it's full of satisfying progression. It takes all the best parts of lit RPG and portal fantasy, wraps them in a world of intrigue and danger, and drops a delightfully snarky underdog into the mix. Jason Asano doesn't just fight monsters, he becomes something more, something legendary. And if you love lit RPGs with personality, substance, and soul, then this series is a must-read for you. So coming in at number 1 and topping our list today is The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba. In my opinion, this is not just a story, it's an experience. A massive, emotionally rich saga about a girl who opens an inn in a world ruled by levels and classes. Dragons? Check. Goblins? Absolutely. Feels? All of them. So The Wandering Inn was first published in 2017 as a web serial. So The Wandering Inn is massive and ongoing. There are 15 ebooks available, and these 15 ebooks correspond to the volumes of the web serial, with later volumes being split into multiple parts due to their length. But Pirate Abba is still updating weekly at thewanderinginn.com. So there are lots of books and they are pretty chunky, so I just need to warn you that each volume is massive, some topping over 400,000 words, and it is an ongoing web serial, so the pacing is slower than your traditional fantasy novel. So in my opinion, the audiobooks are amazing and they are narrated by Andrea Parsons. Books 1 to 3 are narrated by her, but later books are featuring a full cast. I think Andrea's narration is really great. She is expressive, emotional, and memorable. The later volumes expand into a full cast narration, as I said, turning the already epic saga into a full-fledged audio drama. And the audiobook community adores this series, and for good reason. So I'm not even sure where to start with The Wandering Inn. Trying to explain it feels a bit like trying to describe a dream that you had where goblins make you cry and a magical inn taught you more about people than any textbook ever could. So this series really absolutely blindsided me. I picked it up expecting a quirky lit RPG with some humour and light-hearted levelling, but what I got instead was a sprawling, emotional, character-driven epic that quietly wrapped itself around my heart and refused to let go. So at the centre of this story is Erin Solstice, a completely average girl from Earth who finds herself in a fantasy world full of monsters, magic, and terrifyingly real consequences. But instead of becoming some overpowered warrior or spellcaster, she opens an inn. That's it. It's just an inn. And somehow it's riveting the way Pirate Abba writes Erin's journey, turning something as mundane as hospitality into an act of rebellion and courage is kind of genius. But Erin is just the tip of the iceberg. The world is massive, the cast is enormous, and everyone from suicidal goblin lords to pragmatic and soldiers, it's written in such depth and care that I kept forgetting that it all started with an innkeeper making pasta. So I will say this though, it's long, momentarily long though. It sprawls like an epic saga and sometimes meanders like a late night conversation, but I never found myself frustrated or anything. The length gives the world time to breathe, and it's breathing room that makes the emotional gut punches hit so hard, in my opinion. And oh man, the gut punches, I didn't expect a book with skill systems and pun-based food menus to leave me crying over goblins, or terrified over chess games, or standing up in full-blown triumph over cooking conquests, but it did, more than once. And if you're looking for something traditional and neatly structured, The Wandering Inn might test your patience. But if you're willing to invest, if you want to live in a world that feels genuinely alive and flawed and beautiful in the messiest of ways, I can't recommend it enough. It's not just a story, it's a home you want to return to. So my final verdict is The Wandering Inn is my absolute favourite. It is a sprawling, huge adventure that, will take your breath away. The characters are amazing, all of them. All the side characters are great. The story is fantastic and it will rip your heart out and stomp on it. It is just a great time, and if you give it the time and energy, you will be rewarded because it's an amazing story. So thank me later. You read it and thank me later. So that's it. That's my top 10 lit RPG books that I think you need to dive into in 2025. Whether you're into dungeon crawls, moral dilemmas, or slice of life adventures, there's something here for everyone. Smash that like button and hit subscribe for more bookish content. drop your favourite lit RPGs in the comments. Let me know what you love about these books. Have you read them? Are there any that I should read? Please, I want to take recommendations, but let's chat about it in the comments. And until next time, may your crits be high and your loot legendary. All right, catch you on the next one, guys. Thanks. Bye.